Hello, and welcome to Make It Gorgeous, presented by me, Matthew Mays. In this session, I'm going to cover a few different Google Drive tools and how you can plus them up to make them look really great for your students or for your colleagues. Now, I would like for you to know that we could spend hours talking about this concept. However, I wanted to just pick a few that I thought were easy enough and weren't super time consuming, but ways that would make your work look awesome with very little effort on your part. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about Google Drawing, Google Slides, and Google Sheets. I hope you enjoy. Google Drawing is a product that's within your Google Drive, just the same as how you would use docs and slides and sheets and forms and all the other fun things. Google Drawing is there and available for you to create custom work for your students. So I'm thinking things like flowcharts and graphic organizers and customized images and headers for websites and everything in between. So let's dig in. Currently, you're looking at a Google Drawing. So I was able to create this custom header just for this presentation by using just my own creativity and the tools that are available here within Google Drawing. So first, let me show you how you can get to Google Drawing. This is my Google Drive. When I select New, I see the frequently accessed items here. But when I go to More, I see Google Drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and select, and I'm going to be taken to a blank drawing that's ready for me to create. So for starters, this pixelated area that you see here, that's my workspace. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to refer to that as my workspace. You'll notice that there are these little lines down here in the corner. I can click and drag to customize the shape of my workspace. I can also choose to come up here to File, and it's hiding right now because of my face, but you can choose Page Setup, and you can make this however you would like. So let's say that you're creating a document for class, that you want to have appear just like a normal piece of paper, which those are typically 8.5 by 11. When I click Apply, then I have this standard piece of paper waiting for me. There are limitless possibilities within that page setup. So you'll notice that I just chose inches, but you can also do centimeters, points, and pixels if that's something that you would like to work with. And then you can also use the standard models that come with Google Drawing as well. So I'm just going to leave this as the standard for the moment. And then one other thing I'll show you before we move on to some of the other tools and icons is that with a right click, you can unlock some of the tools that you might want to use for your Google Drawing. Most specifically down here where it says background. So instead of this pixelated area of the gray and white blocks, if you choose background, you can then customize the color that appears behind on your workspace. Now, what's important to note here is that if you're trying to create an image that has no back, those are called PNGs. So if you're trying to create a PNG, then you'll want to leave it with this pixelated background. Otherwise, Google Drawing is going to see it as a complete, squared image here in this case, and it's going to save everything. So it will have a color back. It will not have a transparent back. Okay, so we have the normal header up here where we can access a bunch of our tools, and then we have a really helpful icon bar here as well. So you have the ability to add lines, you have the ability to add shapes and text, and bring in your images as well. You can also see in the Insert tab that this spells it out a little bit more for you. So you have charts of all kinds, you have diagrams of many kinds as well. So this is just a really easy way that you can access those different diagrams for your use as well. Now, one of the things that I want to take a moment to just kind of point out is when we're using Google Drawing, it's almost as if we're using a single slide within a Google slide deck or a PowerPoint slide deck if you're a PowerPoint user. These are almost interchangeable. Now, the difference here is this is just a single sheet rather than multiple slides, which is typically what you're working with Google Slides or with your PowerPoint. Okay, but for most purposes, like I said, they almost perform interchangeably. So if you're comfortable with slides or with PowerPoint, then there's a good chance you'll be really strong with your Google Drawing as well. All right, so let's get started. I'm first going to add a shape, and you'll see that there's a bunch of different shapes that we can pick from, including all kinds of really chunky arrows and math equations and all kinds of other fun things. I'm going to start out with just a really basic circle. So with a click and drag, you'll notice I can make something that's more of an oval, or I can make something that is pretty circular, and I'll let go. You'll notice that it comes with that default blue with the dark background. I can change those by looking up here in my icon bar. Hopefully you notice that when I let go of that shape, a bunch of different options appeared. So I'm going to talk through those here just briefly. To change the color of that circle, you'll want to select the paint bucket, and then you can pick any of the colors that are available to you. So orange is my favorite color, so we're going to make this circle orange. Okay, next up, if you want to change the color of the line, like let's say you didn't want it to be black, maybe you didn't want an outline at all, you can get rid of it with that transparent button. Okay, so now I have this really cool circle in here that is ready for me to continue to manipulate. The lines that you see next to it are for border weight. So I'm going to jump back here. Let's say I wanted a gray background. This currently has a border weight of 1, but you can increase that to whatever size you would prefer. So I'm going to make it 4. That way it's a really nice heavy border around that circle. And then you can even change what that looks like. So let's say I wanted it to be dots. Maybe this was some kind of image where students needed to connect the dots for some reason. Then you could have that appear in dot form as well. You also see dashes, all kinds of different ways that these lines can appear. But for our purposes, I'm going to make that a solid line. Now you'll also see in here that it's asking for things related to font, right? This is a shape though. This isn't necessarily like a text box, but with a double click, you'll see that I get that blinking cursor ready for me to type. So I can say something like, this is where text goes. Now you'll notice that this is like perfectly centered. So I'm going to lay on my keyboard here for just a second. You'll notice that it continues to jump up and up and up. And now it eventually gets to a point where it doesn't really fit anymore. So keep in mind that, yes, you can type directly within your shapes, which is really helpful. It kind of like treats it as a singular item, but you may not have the customization to make your text appear the way that you want it to. So here's the hack around that. Let's say that I wanted to get rid of my text, right? I wanted it to appear in a different way. I can come back up here to my menu bar and choose text box. With a click and drag, I can now create that text box where, again, I can type pretty much anything I want to. Now the difference here is I can click and drag this onto that circle, and I can place it in the exact way that I want it to appear. So I'm not going to auto fit this. I'm going to shrink my box. And now maybe I want these words to appear up in the top for some reason. So I'm going to drag that up to the top. So again, this is a way that you can kind of customize your text in the way that it appears within a certain shape, just so that way you don't have to have it perfectly centered. Again, there's a time and a place for all of this, but like I said, this is just a nice little hack around how you can make all that appear. So I'm just going to call this title for the moment. You'll notice that all of those same text features apply because remember, I'm just using a text box here. I'm going to center this, and then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. That way we can use this as kind of our example. So here's my title. I'm going to click and drag that up just a little bit more. Now it is up there in the very top. Okay, so this is a good looking circle. It's exactly what I had hoped for, and it's going to work for me for this upcoming assignment. Now, currently, there are 2 separate items here, but I'd like for them to travel together, right? I want to group them. So if you click and drag in an empty space, you'll notice that it has selected that text box as well as my larger shape. With a right click in that area, you get a bunch of different options, right? So you can choose to rotate this whole thing. You can choose to center it on the page vertically or horizontally. You can choose to align these items as well. So what it's going to do is it's automatically going to change both of those items to be horizontally or vertically aligned. And I'll show you an example of that here in a little bit. What I'm searching for is group. So when I select group, now if I go to click and drag, then both of them are traveling together. This is really important if you're working with students and you don't want them to miss out on certain items. You want things to travel together. This is definitely the way to make that happen. Okay, so for our purposes, while we're here, I'm going to make another circle, but I'm going to put it down here in this bottom area. And then just so that way, again, one more time, we're showing how to fix this up. I'm going to click that pink bucket, and I'm going to make this one green. Actually, I'm going to make this one yellow. Let's make this one yellow, and let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so what I promised you before was that when you select multiple items, you can right-click on it, and then you can choose to align horizontally, right? Notice how that just kind of flipped everything up together. And then I'm going to do it one more time to align vertically in the middle, right? So now it's almost as if that orange circle just disappeared, right? But let's change our order, right? When I right click, that's another feature. So I'm going to change the order now that I have multiple items on here, and I'm going to choose to send this to the back. Now I have a perfectly aligned yellow circle on the bottom, and I have this nice new orange circle waiting on the top. Okay, so by using that align, you can make sure that things are looking exactly the way that you want for them to appear. Okay, so I'm going to set this off to the side, and this is just another great reminder, if you're unaware, that this gray space on the outside is also workable, right? When we first started, I told you that when you save something or when you download as like a PNG or a JPEG, and I'll show you where that is underneath File, go to Download. You can save these as a bunch of different file types. But when you download this, the only thing that's going to come across is whatever is in this pixelated area. It's important to note, though, that things that are outside of this workspace, so I would just call this the gray space is workable. So let's say that this was an assignment for students that you wanted them to like click and drag something over. Maybe they're making labels, like I'm thinking almost like parts of a flower, or like if you were trying to diagram a map and you wanted students to place a flag in a certain area, then by having the flags over here, they could click and drag them onto the map, right? That would be pretty cool. So put those flags over here in the gray area. You would share this with your students either with this link, or you can share this in Google Classroom and then have a copy ready for every student so that then they can do the activity. By placing it in this gray area, again, you're basically doubling the size of this current workspace that I have by putting things over here on the outside, which is really cool. So definitely an opportunity that you will want to take advantage of. All right, so let's play pretend. I would like to add an image. Okay, so I'm going to insert an image. You see that you can upload from your computer. So if it's a file that you already have, you can get it from there. You could get it from your drive, from your photos, by a URL, or you can take a picture from your camera. So just for fun, I'm going to search the web here. And like I mentioned there a moment ago, I thought doing a map would be pretty cool. So I'm going to insert this image of a map. I'm also going to expand this picture so that it makes it a little bit bigger here within my workspace, and I'm going to center it up. Remember, as you're moving things around, those red bars are here to help you align things perfectly as well if you don't want to use those alignment buttons. Okay, while we're here, I do want to show you one other thing. So this is my image, right? Anytime you bring an image in, you get a bunch of different options. So you could choose to replace that image. You could choose format options and really play around with the size and rotation, with the position. You can recolor things. You can adjust them. You can give them drop shadows. You can do all kinds of custom things. One of my favorite things, and it's kind of a sneaky way to get around cropping images, instead of selecting this icon here to crop the image, I'm going to click this drop down to mask this image. And I'm not going to keep it this way, but I just want to show you how it works. What I'm basically doing is I'm going to customize this image based on a shape. So for whatever reason, let's say that I really wanted an arrow with a map of the United States on it. So I'm going to select this arrow and notice how my image has changed significantly. So now I have this arrow that can be moved all around. You'll see here too, I can move this with this little arrow to create different directions. I can expand it. I can do all kinds of fun things just by masking it. Let's say that I wanted to go back to that regular square. Now everything is there again. So again, to find that, I just went up here next to crop image. It's a little hidden drop down, and now I can create that customized shape to mask the shape of my image. All right. In the example that I mentioned a moment ago, I said it would be really cool if you could plant a flag. Let's go out and find one. Now, remember, as I was talking there a moment ago, I was talking about PNGs and JPEGs. So a JPEG is going to have a white background, right? It's solid. It's those shapes like you think like the clip art where it has the white background and you can see the white background if it's on a color and it looks really silly. This is an example of a PNG. I know this is a PNG because it has that pixelated background behind it, just the same as my image here. Okay, and in our example, this tree was a PNG. This computer with the paper coming out of it was a PNG. It would look really silly if this had like that square white behind it on this gray background, right? That's not what we're looking for. So what I want to do is find a flag. And in my Google search, I'm going to do an image search with the letters PNG after it. So let's see what we get. I'm going to choose this orange flag because, again, orange is my favorite color. And you'll notice that it has that pixelated background, right? So this would be a good image for me to pull over. I'm going to look at this orange flag too, and this one looks like it would work as well. So I'm going to pick this one because I think I like the shape of that a little bit better. I'm going to copy that image, and then I'm going to come over to my drawing, and I'm going to paste it in. I know that this has successfully created that PNG because there's no white background behind it. Okay, so maybe for this assignment, I want my students to place a flag where they are currently located. You'll notice that this image has a little bit extra. If I double click on it, I get the black bars to crop my image. So I'm going to grab that and pull in. I'm going to grab down below and pull up. And then I'm going to hit over here. I almost let that one go first. I'm going to come over here and pull that one in too, and then hit my enter key. So basically all I did was shrink the workable space. So this is basically creating an easier workspace for students where things aren't necessarily going to be overlapped. So let's say that I want my students to place a flag for where they are currently, and then place a flag for all the states that they have visited. Okay, let's set that as our assignment. Instead of having like, let's say, just one flag over here and asking the students to figure it out, or even, trying to do like a copy and then a right click paste, you can create multiple of these flags with a hidden key code. So on your computer, if you were to select this item, right, notice how it has the blue bars around it, and hit Control D, that's going to duplicate this image. So now I have two flags here, and I have this next flag up. So what I'm going to choose to do is hit that a couple different times because I know that maybe students have traveled to quite a few places. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these flags, and I'm going to try and be really careful that I don't select my map as well. And then I showed you that trick there just a moment ago with a right click, align horizontally center, align vertically in the middle. And now it's almost as if I have an infinite clone of these different flags, which is really, really cool. So again, you could choose to do however many you want. Maybe there's a really ambitious student out there who is well-traveled, and you need to have 50 flags on here ready for them. Again, that's just highlighting every shape that you want to stack. You'll choose align horizontally center, and then you'll choose align vertically middle. And now you have that infinite clone. So again, this isn't just one flag. Now there's, seemingly a whole bunch. So let's say that this was that assignment for students. You shared this out with your students via Google Classroom. I have my own copy. So now I can take this flag and I can drag it exactly where I am here in Ohio and get it right up there in Northeast Ohio. And ta-da, here is my one flag planted. Now, I've been fortunate enough to travel to quite a few states. So I'm just going to drop this flag mostly over here. I've been to Texas, I've been to New Mexico, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore you with all of my travel history, but again, just notice that this infinite clone has been placed on here, which is really, really cool. Now, there are a bunch of other superpowers that you can do here within your Google Drawing. When an item is selected, you have a bunch of options up here across the top. When certain items are selected, you'll notice that a flag, or I'm sorry, when I select this flag, this link appears. So you can link to different things as well. So let's say that this was my assignment. When a person clicks this flag in New Mexico, maybe I want them to find out more information about New Mexico. So what I'll do is I'll come over here to my search. I'm going to go to all. And now this is the official New Mexico website. I'm going to copy that link address. I'm going to come back in here and choose to paste that out to you. So now when a person selects this flag here for New Mexico, they will be able to visit the official Visit New Mexico website. So linking things out through here is really helpful as well. There are a bunch of other tools that are available to you as well. So you can choose to link objects through. You have your dictionary. You also have your Explore button, which is really helpful. So this is kind of like doing a Google search, whether that be for items, whether that be for like images. You're basically doing a Google search right here within your Google Drawing. And then you don't have to go out to the internet, kind of like how I did up here to find those items. Within Insert, you have a bunch of other possibilities as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to show you some things that are available using that Insert. All right, so we've learned a bunch so far. I'm really excited. Hopefully, you've already been thinking of some applications that you can use, because really it's limitless. It's, the possibilities for Google Drawing are really up to your imagination. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here to diagram. And for this one, I think I'm going to choose hierarchy. Okay, choosing hierarchy gives me a couple different looks. And I think for this one, I'm going to choose this look. And then instead of 3 levels, let's do 4, right? So here's my 3. If I don't want that, notice how I can choose like little individual pieces and parts. If I click and drag over the whole thing and select delete, it sends that entire table away. Let's pick this one with 4. Notice how you have different color presets in here as well. So if you wanted to change that up and kind of mix and match to fit things, you can do that as well. And when I select, it puts it out here into my workspace. If you wanted to increase the size, you can select them all, and you can pull into those different areas to increase the size. You can even do individual boxes as well. So let's say for whatever reason you wanted this one here at the top to be really, really big, then you can do that as well. You'll notice that it comes with default text in there, so that's called lorem ipsum. It's just default dummy text. It doesn't really mean anything, and then you can customize this however you would like. So let's say this is like my title, and then this one is, again, just sample just to get some text out here. This is chapter 1, and this is chapter 2, and for whatever reason, you're building this kind of hierarchy, right? So know that these kinds of tables are ready and available for you as well. In the resources for this video, I'm going to include a folder that has all kinds of graphic organizers waiting and available for you to make a copy. That way you don't have to create things from scratch. However, with a little bit of creativity and with a lot of bit of your imagination, you can create these amazing custom work pieces for your students to breathe new life into your classroom and to help create that mostly paperless environment. if you have any. When working with Google Slides, there are definitely some things that you'll want to keep in mind in order to help make your work look gorgeous. The first of which is that when you open your new slide, so after going to Google Drive and after opening Slides, they present you with this series of themes. And it's really nice, very accessible. They've definitely improved this area over time, but there are even better places for you to go to find Slides templates. And so I'd like to make our way around to a few of those here as a part of this session. So the first of which is called Slides Go. Now, Slides Go is a template gallery website where you can scroll through and find all kinds of awesome slides templates for you to use and to interact with. Now, I would like to take just a moment here for you to notice some of them have little bugs at the top of the left that say premium or that say freemium. There are paid versions of Slides Go. If that's something that you're interested in, that's not something that I have ever done, but I definitely want to make you aware of that if you would like some of these premium slide decks, that you can obviously get that membership and pay for those. But for all of the other ones, different presentations that have no bug up in the corner, these are all free to you to use. So it is this simple. So let's say that I wanted to use this notebook lessons, right? I can toggle through the different slides to see what this presentation looks like. If it fits for what I want, then I can access it there. You'll also notice that some of these come with multicolors too, which is really fun. So if you toggle these colors, then you'll notice how this slide deck changes. This one here looks pretty good. So let's continue on with this one. Let's say that Meet Our Professors is the session that I'd like to work with. And just for fun, let's make it blue. So I'm going to select the words Meet Our Professors. And the same thing applies here. I can click through these different slides in order to see the layouts and all the things that are available to me to manipulate. Now, what's important to remember here is I'm going to access this slide deck by making a copy for myself. So any of the things that you see here are fully customizable. So pictures, words, shapes, extra things, doodads, we can change all of those. So once I decide that this is a thing that I would like to work with, all I have to do is come over here to where it says Google Slides and select. It's going to say, hey, are you sure you want to make a copy of this thing? I will select make a copy, and then we'll watch it pop up into a Google slide deck that is new for me and ready to use. Okay, so basically I've just cut to the chase. Instead of taking all kinds of time to try and customize something that would look not even remotely close to this good, I have already made this. Now I just have to change up some words. The first thing you'll want to do is change the name of this set of slides. So customize it to whatever fits your project, but definitely do that. That way you can organize it by using this folder. You can move it wherever you would like in your drive. So by default, it's going to place it in your My Drive area. But again, by using this folder here, you can move it somewhere where you're going to be able to find it. Okay, so this is very simple. Now we can just go in and we can say something like, welcome, right? I can change all of the words on here. All of these different images, they can all move too. I'm going to jump forth to this slide here. This lady looks very nice, but maybe she's not one of our presenters, or maybe we want a different picture to appear in this space. We can do that. So if I select, I can right click on this and I can choose replace image. Now, if I scroll over, I get a bunch of different options, and these are great ways to help make your work look even better. You could just take a picture using the camera that's on your device. You could insert a URL for a specific picture. Maybe you have something in your Google Photos or perhaps your Google Drive. You can also search the web from here, or you can upload from your computer. Now, the catch here is, with this search the web, you're going to get images that are free and fair use. So let's play pretend. Let's say that I wanted a picture of Mickey Mouse. If I search the web here, the likelihood that I'm going to get an actual copyrighted version of Mickey Mouse that looks like Mickey Mouse is not very high. In order to do that, you would have to go to a regular Google image search and then bring it on. But again, be aware that that's likely a copywritten image and one that you would want permission to use. So what I typically do is I use a website called Unsplash to find my photos. So these are free, usable images. They offer opportunities for you to copy information about the people who took the pictures, so that way you could give them credit, but these are all free to you to use. So very simply, all you'll have to do is type in what you're looking for. So let's start by searching for school. So I'm going to type in school, and I'm presented with all kinds of great images that I could use to put into my presentation. I like this pencil cup. So what I'm going to do is download the photo by clicking this arrow. And then this is where I get that information. So here it says, give a shout out to the person who took this image and who uploaded it to Unsplash for us to use. I can also copy their information here to my clipboard so that at the end of my slides presentation, I can add it in. So let's say that I wanted to come back here. What I can do is click and drag this image up into my workspace, right? That's a nice big image there. I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit. And that looks about good. I'm going to select this image of that very nice lady and remove it. Now, as I drag this over, notice that this doesn't fit. Here's another sneaky tip for you to help make your work look really, really good. If you double click on this image, you get the crop bars that appear around it as well. So if you wanted to, you could click and drag those black bars in, and now you're creating something that's a little bit more square, right? So once you have the image in the crop that you would like, just hit your Enter key on your keyboard and it will lock those changes in place. You'll notice also that there are like stars and that little swoopy looking rope, right, that I'm now covering. So what I can do is I can change the order of this image. So I'm going to go up to order, and I'm going to send this to the back so that now these stars are appearing right over top of that image and everything looks really good. Now, while we're here, I'll also remind you that this hidden button is up here too. It's right next to the crop image button. It's a drop down that says mask image. And when you select it, you get all kinds of different ways in which you can crop this picture. So let's say that I didn't want this to be a square or a rectangle. Let's say for whatever reason, I wanted this to be like a speech bubble. If I select that speech bubble, you'll notice that now my image looks just like that speech bubble. So I can come back up here to my shapes because I don't really like that and go back to my rectangle. But know that this button up here, your mask image, is a really great way to customize your work and a really great way to make things unique and special for your work. Definitely help make it stand out against the rest. So again, they have gone to great lengths here at Slides Go to make our slide deck look absolutely incredible. As you go to the end of your slides, you'll notice that there are some other things that you can customize. So this, makes it look like you're watching something on a screen, a tablet. There's your mobile. You can also see some other images. Remember that these are all fully customizable. And when you get to the end, you see a whole list of doodads and things that we can add to these slides in order to make them pretty great. So know that you can copy any of these and bring them up to be used as well. At the end of those, it also shows you some more of the story sets that are used, as well as all kinds of different editable graphics that you can pull onto your other slides, which is really, really helpful. So they've given you a whole number of icons and all kinds of other fun things that you can bring in. Okay. While we're here, and before I show you a few other areas that I really like to go to for my slides, I want you to know that you can duplicate these slides as well. So, let's say that I wanted to use this particular slide in a number of ways. Don't think that just because this is the slide template that you have to stick with this. that you only get one shot at using this slide. That's not the case. You can duplicate this. But when I right click over on the slides, right, the only option that I really get is like a copy and then a paste. So it's a little bit cumbersome. There's an easier way to do that. If you select the slide, notice that I have that orange box around it. If you hit Control D on your keyboard, it will duplicate that slide for you. So again, that's Control D, and you'll get a duplicate of that slide. So now maybe this is like, percentages for the first 9 weeks. Maybe this is percentages for the second 9 weeks, and so on and so on. You can easily duplicate all of those things for you as well. So again, know that when you're using these different slides galleries, that these are all fully customizable and that you can really make them shine for your students. Now, there are a couple other places that I like to go. I just mentioned that a moment ago. Slides Gala is another one that I like to go to. So this, again, is a template gallery. Very similar presentations, a couple ones that are definitely different, definitely stand out. And then I also really like Slides Mania. And one of the things that I like most about Slides Mania is that they offer really fun alternatives to slides. So this is a way that you can plus your slides to make them something other than just a slide deck. So one of the reasons why I came to this screen is that we have all these weekly planners ready for us. Now, again, yes, this is a Google slide deck. However, now I have this awesome planner that I can share with my kids. And I'll jump into this one here real quick so that you can see it. You can link all of these different things. So when I click on Monday, it's not going to, make me, or let's say that Wednesday. If I click on Wednesday, it's not going to make me go through Monday and Tuesday in order to get to Wednesday. It could just jump straight to that tab. So know that these are all fully customizable for you, and that you can really, really make some cool stuff for your students. So again, I really like Slides Mania because they pull out these weekly planners. They also have a really great selection of choice boards and game boards on here too. Things that will, obviously save you tons and tons of time, as well as provide just gorgeous things to look at for your students. So definitely make sure that you are checking that out as well. Now, the last thing that I'll tell you about slides, in terms of this presentation at least, is that you definitely want to keep in mind that there's a difference between PNG images and JPEG images that you're going to bring in. So this is a randomizer that I built, and when published, it just starts spinning on your screen like crazy in order for students to kind of be sorted. So I'm a Harry Potter nut. So I wanted a way to sort my students. So it would have looked really silly had I had the sorting hat with like a white background to it, right? Those are typically our JPEG images. So as I'm doing a Google image search, if you see something that has that white background, or if you bring something forth that has that white background, it's going to show up on your slides and it's going to look really weird. Your kids are going to know that something's up. So when I did a search during this slide deck, all I did was search for PNG images, and I'll show you kind of how that looks too. So let's just go to Google Images here, and we'll call that up. And let's say that I wanted to find dogs, right? So dogs are great. I love dogs, but you'll notice that these all carry different backgrounds. So like this guy, smiley boy over here is probably going to get that green background to come with them, but I'm really curious about this dog here. So as I click on him, he has that white background. So that means that if I were to bring him into a presentation, he's going to have that white background too. So here's the trick around that. Instead of just searching for dogs, type in dogs PNG and see what pops up. So you'll notice that this guy here appears to have that white background, but when I click on him, I now get this pixelated background, which is very similar to what we see on a blank slide or in a blank drawing. So I know that if I wanted to, I can right click on this doggo and I can copy this image. I'm going to go back over to this Harry Potter one just because I know it's open and ready. And what I can do is paste that puppy into the space, and it looks as if he's just hanging out on this text box, right? So by just creatively using the tools that you have at your disposal, now all of a sudden I've created this awesome image that looks like I spent a ton of time and lots of time, especially in like Photoshop to access. However, I didn't do anything other than a normal Google image search. And I have this really fun looking slide that's ready for my students. So as you work with slides, remember this gray space is available to you as well, just the same as what it is for Google Drawing. And know that really the possibilities are endless for you when you understand how to lay some things out for yourself. When working in Sheets, there are some really easy things that you can do to help make your work look incredible. So I'd like to go over a few of those today. Now, I know that Sheets is often seen as like a dirty word in education or for people who are unfamiliar with using spreadsheets. But there are some really simple things that you can do to take control of the data that may be floating around. So before I get too deep into this workbook here, I want you to know that this is fake data. So the students, the numbers, all that kind of stuff that you're seeing, this is all fake. So don't worry about any of that. Now, there's a hidden button for you here in Sheets that will help you to select all of the available rows and columns within a spreadsheet. And that's up here in the top left-hand corner. When I click, you'll notice that everything is highlighted. So this can be used for things like changing your font. So when you select, know that all of the fonts that are available to you within like a regular Google Doc, those are all going to be available for you here in Sheets as well. So I'm just going to change this up just to prove the concept. And now everything is in Roboto. So very similar, I'm going to select all those and I'm going to come up here to format. So when I do so, I get all kinds of different things. I can choose how to align things and merge cells and wrap my text and all of those different fun things, which is very similar to tables if you're familiar with those within your Google Doc. But I'm going to go to alternating colors. And when I do so, you'll notice that I get this little pop-up over here on my right. What we're about to do, our alternating colors, is going to apply to the range rows 1 through row 60. I would like for this to impact my header. I don't really have a footer for this data, so I'm going to let that go. And now I can choose how to customize the colors. I think that blue is really fun, so let's stick with that. But let's say that this shade is a little bit too impactful for me. Maybe I want to dial it down to something a little bit different. I can do that. So I'm just going to select this here. Actually, that probably made it even more bold, didn't it? But we'll just keep it for this example because it's not going to hurt anything. So when you have the layout that you would like, you can just choose done. And those different color schemes will all remain in here for you to work with. Now, you'll notice that this information is all laid out perfectly for me in those alternating colors. It helps make things look a little bit easier on the eyes. And then you can even do things like if you click over here on one of the individual rows, you can right click to delete that row and it automatically formats the rest of those colors. So it's a really nice way for you to make your work here in this spreadsheet look really, really great. Now, there are a couple other things that we can do to make our work look great as well. And those are things like conditional formatting. So you'll notice here that where it says iReady Math for our fall overall, I have a couple different groupings, but for the most part, they're all pretty much the same, right? So I see some students at level 6, I see some level 4s, some 5s. There's this thing that says early 7, mid 7, and so on and so on. So I have some consistency here as well. So maybe I want to put a conditional on this. So what I'm going to do is select this whole area with a click and a drag. You'll notice that I've selected all of those because I can see that blue box around it. I'm going to go back up to my format, and I'm going to choose conditional formatting. I get a similar pop-up over here on the side where it's asking me basically, hey, in column Q for row 2 through row 57, we are going to format our cells. So as I look at this, I can see that there are some numbers. So we're going to use some numbers as our parameters for this. So when I select the rules, it says things like is empty, is not empty, text contains, is this date, is greater than or equal to, right? There are all kinds of different ways that you can think about the numbers and think about the data. What I know is different or unique about each of these columns is those grade level numbers. So I'm going to choose text contains, and then all I need to do is figure out those differences, right? So let's say that if the text contains a 4, then I want to change it to yellow, right? So that's going to make my pop out here become yellow. So when I hit done, then I now have this rule that for the cells of Q2 to Q57, if it contains a 4, it's going to turn it to yellow. Since I already have this selected, I can just choose add another rule. It's those same cells. I'm going to choose text contains. I can see the number 5 in a few of these. Maybe I want this to now be orange, right? And so now I can make that done. Same deal, add another, text contains, let's do 6. We'll do this as our last one here, and we'll just make this red, okay? So you'll notice that that conditional formatting has superseded the alternating colors that we have too, which is really nice. So now in a flash, I can see, okay, anybody who is red, those are my level 6s. Anybody who is orange, those are my level 5s. And here are my level 4s in that yellow. So like I said, this is a really nice way for you to just visually see those differences. Now, one other thing that I really like to do is that you can create customized drop downs here within Sheets. This is a really nice way, again, if you have some commonality, to make your sheets very similar to like what a Google form would do for you by getting like a drop down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a drop down in each of these for ELA teachers. So let's say that all these students are a part of the same community or a part of the same school, and I would like for them to have that drop down. So I'm going to go to data. I'm going to scroll down to data validation, and then I'm going to change it up to list of items. Now notice you could choose list from a range. Like let's say that that information is somewhere else or on a different sheet. You could do it that way. Similarly, you could do it by number or text or a whole number of other reasons. For your ease, maybe you're a beginner or maybe you've never done this before, I like doing list of items. So this is probably the simplest way to bring them over. Let's say that my ELA teachers are last name Smith, Jones, and Thomas. Okay, so I've split them with that comma, just like what it told me to do. And what I would like to have happen is a drop-down list is going to appear in each one of these cells for me. If by some chance somebody accidentally types something instead of choosing from that drop-down, they're going to see that warning, or you could also toggle this to reject that input. And then if it does one of those things, then you can customize the text that will appear there. So I'm going to click Save, and you'll notice that now there is a little drop-down arrow in each of these rows. So let's say that I'm inputting this data, and instead of typing out Smith, what I can do is come up here, select Smith, and now that's in there waiting for me. Same deal, maybe this person is Jones, that person is Jones, this person is Thomas, and so on and so on. So again, I'm using this for teacher names, but know that you can do this for a whole number of different things. This is really a nice way to ensure that the data that goes into your sheet is uniform. So now I know for sure I'm not going to get like Smith, capital S-M-I-T-H, and then accidentally I forget to hit my shift key and it's lowercase S-M-I-T-H. And I know it sounds silly and kind of trivial, but when you're trying to compile your data, those things matter. So I know that by using this formatting tip, not only is my work going to look incredible, but I also know that it's going to be consistent and it's going to produce consistent data for me. One of the other things that I love doing in spreadsheets is kind of flipping the script on language and like coding language for your spreadsheet. So spreadsheets know yeses and nos, it knows numbers, it knows trues and falses. And so there's a really easy way for you to make your work look gorgeous without having to type those in. And that's by inserting a checkbox. So let's say that I wanted a checkbox here in E2. I'm going to go up to Insert, and then I'm going to choose Checkbox down here toward the bottom. So now I currently have an empty checkbox that my spreadsheet understands to mean false. I could have typed in the word false, but I like the look of this checkbox. I think it makes things look pretty clean. Let's say that I wanted this, though, to appear in all of these different rows. I could have just clicked on, selected all of these rows and done that at once. But know that you can copy this down as well. So if you select this little square in the bottom right-hand corner of that cell, you can click and drag all the way down. And now you have a checkbox in each one of these cells in the E column. Let's say this was for some type of data that I needed to know. And our student here, Alvaro, for him, this is true, whatever this might be. If I check this, now it changes that expression from false to true. So I can make my way down and check the students who this may apply to. And it just gives it a different look. Instead of having these words, these yes, nos, or your true falses, now I have this checkbox. This is a really easy way to get people who might be reluctant in using spreadsheets to begin using them, because now, as you can see, I have this drop down where they can select things. I have this checkbox where they can, just check their information rather than having to worry about typing things in perfectly each time. So again, we could spend all kinds of time talking about spreadsheets and the way that you can plus them up. But these are just a few different tips for some things that I really like to help make your work in spreadsheets look a little bit better. Now, the last thing that I'll show you here, again, there's a whole number of things that we could do here within Sheets. But the last thing that I'm going to show you as a part of this tutorial is down here in the Explore area. So again, just for fun, I'm going to select all of these up, and then I'm going to hit Explore down here on the side. What's fun is that you can ask questions of your data. So where it says ask about this data, I can choose these pre-prescribed questions, or I can type in my own questions in here and it will produce charts and graphs for me. So you'll notice if I wanted to, I could easily create this pivot table that's ready to go. You'll also see that I have this count of iReady students ready for my fall. Here's a count of those ELA teachers that we were just manipulating. So it's already giving me possibilities for my data. I don't even have to think, it's just already producing these for me. What's nice is if you want to add one of these, you can choose Insert Chart, and that's going to pop it onto my workbook here. And then you can even view this full size to create a more customized version of it. By doing so, you're going to get this incredible look at your data in a flash. The alternative would be to use your options up here to try and find, and insert your charts, change its colors. Maybe you want, a different image as a part of it. Maybe you want other things. It doesn't have to be that difficult. So use your Explore button down here, see what they give you. There's a really good chance that it's going to give you the thing that you're looking for. You can even select a given area, like this 504 plan, choose Explore, and then it will produce, for that 504 plan analysis too. So you can see here that a large majority of my students are not on a 504 plan. However, 4 students are. So again, all I did was select that, then choose Explore, and it gave me that analysis.